Tonight, Chris Hansen goes after a different kind of predator, the kind who wants your money.
I literally wiped out savings accounts.
It's one of the biggest internet scams in the world.
It's everywhere at this point.
It starts with an email from someone begging for help and promising a huge reward. They've cheated Americans out of tens of millions. Now, there's another sucker in their sights.
I think I should be adding some 500,000 for you because you're such a wonderful man.
Except this one is Chris Hansen.
Am I going to be meeting with you in London or somebody else?
Traveling the world to track down the crooks, playing nice or playing hardball.
Get it together and stop jerking me around.
Setting up stings with a room full of hidden cameras.
Okay, how far away?
Winning their confidence.
We have to be careful.
Because we don't want to end up with this all over television.
Then lowering the boom.
I work for a show called Dateline NBC. And you've just been called.
Chris Hansen smokes him out to catch a con man. Cunning and elusive, those internet con artists can soak you for a fortune, then vanish. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stone Phillips.
And I'm Ann Curry. It's a scam that won't go away. Those emails arriving from exotic places, pleading for help and promising millions. Americans keep biting and losing hundreds of millions of dollars a year to these crooks. Trouble is, they're not easy to catch.
But in a hidden camera investigation, Chris Hansen takes on a different kind of predator to beat these cons at their own game.
Ever get an email like this?
My name is Mrs. Mariam Ibrahim. I am suffering from long-time cancer of the breast. Before my late husband died, he deposited the sum of $20 million. 20% of this money will be for your time and efforts.
The writer sometimes appears to be a desperate character in a far-off land, offering millions in reward money if you'd only help them in their plight, usually by sending your own money first. If you get a letter like this, you probably ignore it, smelling a scam. But there are thousands of others who take the bait, falling for this global billion-dollar racket. In 2005, we introduced you to Pam Krause.
I thought I was doing something to help somebody out.
A town treasurer in Wisconsin, she got an email which asked her to help a desperate widow recover her husband's fortune. In return, she'd get a reward of millions of dollars, but only after she paid some fees in advance. Altogether, she lost $18,000.
I literally wiped out savings accounts and maxed out credit cards.
And although the scam's been around for years, people continue to fall for it.
It's unfortunate, but they do.
Special Agent John Hambrick of the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center.
Give me a sense for how this works. I mean, it really has gone from a traditional mail crime in terms of things being sent through the Postal Service to an internet age crime.
Exactly, and the ability to send out exponentially more in terms of volume increases their returns.
So where do they get these lists? How do they know who to send this
They're
to?
available on the black market.
So they buy the list on the black market and they do
black.
these mass mailings. Is there a profile of a victim here?
No, it crosses all social boundaries, all education.
So you've seen all kinds of people get taken.
Absolutely.
The elderly who lose their retirement.
Exactly.
Executives who have money to invest.
Right.
Are these people stupid who are falling for this?
Well, no, they're not. Some are quite well educated.
Case in point, nestled along the frozen shoreline of Lake Huron, Harrisville is the seat of Alcona County, Michigan. In the bitter winds this winter, residents are freezing in their tracks, and not because of the weather.
It shocks me that a guy that I thought was a pretty smart guy could fall for something like this.
What happened? This time, a county treasurer. That's right, this man, Thomas Katona, the man who had control of the county checkbook, got an email that promised millions if he'd only invest some upfront money first. Police say he took the bait hook, line, and sinker. First, he sent the scammers $70,000 of his own money. Then, the crooks apparently convinced him to sink at least $180,000 of county money into the scheme, and a total of $1.2 million may be missing from the public till.
Taxpayers of Elkona County are obviously going to suffer some loss here. Every property owner that pays property taxes is going to feel some sort of loss from this.
Katona faces 11 felony counts, including embezzlement and forgery. When he declined to speak for himself in court, the judge entered a plea of not guilty for him. The email scam here in Michigan is just the latest and most extreme example of a decades-old problem that the internet has only made more widespread.
It's Canada, England, the Netherlands. It's everywhere at this point.
The FBI's John Hambrick says at least 10,000 people will be victimized by the email cons this year alone. The majority of the scams originate in West Africa, especially Nigeria, and are called 419 scams, named for the Nigerian law which makes them illegal there. Some operate from internet cafes like this, where the crooks are able to send millions of messages, hoping to lure the unsuspecting victim.
And the ability to send out exponentially more in terms of volume increases their returns. A fraction of a percentage of a response is significant to them. Millions of dollars at stake.
But the criminals operate worldwide and appear to be only loosely connected, not necessarily controlled by a single kingpin. The scammers have been around for years, but there are more and more victims.
What makes these offers so alluring to people? What makes the average guy say, all right, I'll invest $8,000, $10,000, $20,000 in this?
I don't have an answer for that one.
Greed?
I would say, yeah, it's an easy buck. It's the potential to be that once-in-a-lifetime windfall of money.
Most of the con men remain hidden, far away overseas, protected by the anonymity of the internet. And according to law enforcement, that's where they are most likely to stay.
Why can't the FBI do more about this?
In terms of prioritization of resources, we're focused on terrorism at this point. It simply is not a high enough priority for us to focus on this.
Authorities say the scammers are part of several international networks based here in West Africa that are nearly impossible to put out of business. The FBI says Nigeria, for instance, has made some progress, but every time a scammer is brought down, another takes his place.
As names on emails, these scammers are faceless, phantoms, almost impossible to track down. But what if we could take on the challenge of finding some of these rip-off artists, make it our mission to smoke out some of these con men?
Tonight from London and other places around the world, we'll show you how Americans are getting ripped off in a torrent of internet scams. But this time on Hidden Camera, you'll see how Dateline turned the tables.
An investigation where a financial predator gets taken for a ride.
Anthony, I'd like to talk to you.
We'll make them believe they're the ones who are going to make a fortune.
I'm very interested in this opportunity.
Make it too much for them to resist.
Mr. Basile is in the lobby.
Yes. Tonight, one by one, these super scammers are about to be unmasked.
How often do you rip people off this way?
Step 1, finding the con men we're hoping to con. Throwing out the bait, waiting for a bite, when To Catch a Con Man continues.
With millions being stolen each year by elaborate rip-offs that originate overseas, would it be possible to unmask the scammers? To catch a con man in the act. This man's been trying for years.
Well, I've got an email account established that I actually set up and designed to attract spam. I signed up for a lot of things on the internet. I didn't take any anti-spam measures at all. I get sometimes 10, 12, 20 of them a week. I think the majority of these aren't even looking for a meeting. They're looking to have money wired.
Bill, who doesn't want us to use his last name, is what you'd call a scam baiter, kind of an avenging angel of the internet.
Well, I was getting a lot of junk email from them, and it was taking a lot of my time to go through and to delete it, and it was very frustrating. So I decided I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to waste some of their time.
When he'd receive an email promising money, he'd play along and send messages back to them to set up fake meetings.
They were receptive to my response, and I started running them all over the place, to airports and cities to pick me up, and I wasn't going to be there, and that was satisfying. Satisfaction I get is that I have these guys busy with me and they're not making any money off of somebody that might actually fall for it. And it's something when you're sitting at a screen, and in the case of the one I did where there was a webcam, I'm sitting at a screen having myself a beer, and I'm looking across the world and seeing somebody looking for somebody that isn't there. That was fun.
So we hired Bill to help us. His mission? To go online to hunt for scammers. If he saw a pitch that looked suspicious, he'd alert us. It didn't take long. We soon realized we might have several schemes to investigate. The first came in the form of a business proposition from someone claiming to be a government official in South Africa. He claims there is money locked away in a foreign bank account, an account he can't access himself. Only we can help him transfer money out of that account, and if we do, we'll get a big reward. The writer asks us to treat this information with the utmost discretion. Now it's time for us to infiltrate this scam. So Bill responds using a fictional name, Jimmy DeMoney. And he convinces this supposed government official, who calls himself Paul, that he's eager to know more. In other words, he pretends he's a sucker. Soon it's time to talk on the phone with someone who's likely an actual criminal. And that's where I step in, posing as businessman Jimmy DeMoney.
I'm very interested in this opportunity.
Who wouldn't be? I'm told I can earn millions. I asked my overseas friend Paul to help me understand. He explains I'll get my millions if I help in the transfer of another huge amount of cash.
So this money is just kind of floating around, and you just need a place to park it so you can get at your share, and then I would get my share.
Exactly.
Of course, the whole thing has to be kept strictly confidential.
I don't want you to discuss this with any person, even with your wife.
I'd find out a lot more about that later. In the meantime, Paul and I even have our own secret code.
So whenever I call you, I will tell you, in God we trust.
In God we trust.
Paul starts sending me faxes, papers I need to sign, and other official-looking documents. These are supposed to convince me the whole thing is legit. And I get more calls. My pal Paul wants to chat almost daily. I guess that is Jimmy DeMoney, is doing a great job because Paul offers me a bonus reward.
I think I should be adding some 500,000 for you because you're such a wonderful man.
So you're actually going to give me more money?
Yes, I'm telling you I'm going to give you more money as soon as the fund gets your account.
Wow, not bad, and very enticing. Now we're getting closer to unmasking these crooks, closer to putting a face on these crimes. It will happen in London, a meeting where we will shake hands and close the deal. The scammers call it a signing ceremony.
Not like a drinking ceremony or no dancing girls or anything like that?
Nothing like ceremony. No. We don't ceremony. We just for you a contractor to come and sign for the...
I see.
By now, I've spent nearly 2 months exchanging calls and emails, and incredibly, no one has asked me for a dime. According to law enforcement, the most sophisticated scammers are patient. They reel in their victims slowly, get them mentally and emotionally invested, then go for the gold. And that's just what happened next.
Now, for the first time, they hit me up for money. After I've already agreed to go meet them in London, I'm told I'll need $14,000 in cash, fees to cover the so-called signing ceremony.
This $14,000 U.S. cash payment that I need to bring with me to release the larger funds into my account. And that's kind of a new thing that I'm just hearing about right now.
14 grand is a lot of money, but remember, I'm supposed to be getting millions in return. Then, a week before I'm set to travel, another twist. But first, the secret password.
In God we trust.
A personal crisis for my business associate, Paul. He needs a $3,500 loan to save his family's home.
I'm sure if you can get me $3,500, I will complete it to make it up to $7,500 to give them tomorrow morning. I don't know if you can do that for me. It's just a favor I need from you right now.
To keep things going and to make sure he continues to believe we have real money to burn, we wire a tiny fraction of what he asks, $200. Paul writes he's not happy. In the meantime, we've been wondering, who is this guy Paul? We couldn't confirm his address, and the government department he claims to work for doesn't seem to exist. But we do track his phone number and find it's the same number connected to a batch of overseas scams. So I guess Paul has a few other identities running on the internet. In fact, in one email, Paul signs a name we've never seen before, a Mr. Yumna. It must be a mistake. And I pretend not to notice the slip-up.
Hello, Paul.
Soon, we're back on track, on our way to London. To meet not just Paul, but some of those other scammers we've met through emails. Face-to-face meetings, where in all probability, they'll try to fleece me.
Please have a seat over there. Thank you.
But the tables are about to be turned on a very different kind of online predator. And you'll see it all on hidden camera.
How often do you rip people off this way? Tell me.
The team is wired up and waiting in a hidden camera sting, hoping a suspect will take the bait. Can they pull this off? When To Catch a Con Man continues.
This is Jim DeMoney, calling for Sabu. Am I going to be meeting with you in London?
Posing as a businessman who hopes to get his hands on a fortune, I'm in touch with several different potential scammers.
Yeah, it's Jim DeMoney from the United States.
While we want to meet the supposed government official named Paul, we make plans to meet other scammers as well. Our mission is to expose these con men who are likely part of a sprawling network of criminals trolling the internet for victims.
We'll be able to meet Wednesday late afternoon, probably.
Remember, the scam usually happens when the victim is told he'll get a huge bundle of cash in return for helping someone in need. But first, the victim has to turn over thousands in processing fees. That's where the scam comes in. After I tell the man on the phone he'll get some cash,
I will send you money.
I'm assured I'll get millions. As soon as I wire these scammers some money, they obviously smell blood, convinced they can score big. Because they agreed to do something law enforcement says they rarely do: meet in person.
Am I going to be meeting with you in London or somebody else?
London, the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. We're trying to bait a con man, and it's the perfect setting for giving a scammer the royal runaround. We worry these financial predators might be dangerous. We don't know who they are and don't want to be caught alone on their turf. So it's critical that we lure them to a public meeting place. That's what I'm trying to do when I talk to one of them on the phone.
I don't know who's picking me up. I'm not going to get in a car with a stranger. I mean, you think I'm an idiot?
But I also need to convince them I have what they want.
You listen to me for a second. You know, I'm walking around with all this cash. You're making me anxious.
Our first meeting ends up just outside London in Greenwich, home of the famous clipper ship, the Cutty Sark. It's with a so-called diplomat who has promised us a box of cash. In fact, $3 million. The diplomat calls himself simply Anthony. The woman with me is a Dateline producer acting as my assistant, and she's wearing a hidden camera. After a short wait, the diplomat gets right down to business.
The first thing is that I will need a copy of your passport for the clearance. Okay.
For a diplomat, Anthony isn't very diplomatic. He's glued to his cell phone and doesn't like it when I ask when I get my money.
You think we can finish this today? I can finish it today. It depends on you. Instead of standing here.
Diplomat Anthony wants $5,800. If I pay, he says he'll release a big pile of cash that's being stored at the airport, and I'll get my $3 million. I'd love to bait him more, but I sense he's getting antsy and suspicious, so I decide to tell him who I really am.
I'm not really Jim DeMoney. I'm an investigative reporter from the United States. I work for a television show. We're doing a story on people who try to scam Americans. Anthony, I'd like to talk to you.
But there seems to be a never-ending supply of scammers ready to grab our cash. We have another meeting to attend, this time in a hotel suite back in London. And this time, it'll be a little more difficult to run away. Remember that supposed South African official who calls himself Paul on the phone? It turns out we won't be meeting with him. He's passed us on to another scammer, supposedly an international banker named Mr. Bazile, who's arranged a signing ceremony to close the deal. I'm to give the banker $14,000 to cover his fees. In return, I'll get $2.5 million. Sounds like a good deal. So we pull out all the stops. We buy a bottle of champagne because there's going to be a signing ceremony to seal the deal. And all the festivities will be captured on hidden cameras we've installed throughout the suite. We wait in the hotel. Finally, word that the banker, Mr. Bazile, is on his way.
And then what I will do, if you just come into the lobby, I'll have my assistant, Lilibet, will be looking for you.
A few minutes later, I get a call from my friend Paul, who first arranged to have us meet Mr. Bazile at the signing ceremony.
I'm excited too. I'm thrilled about the whole thing.
But would these scammers actually show up at a hotel suite? Finally.
Mr. Bazile is in the lobby. Way early. Way early.
My assistant escorts him up to the suite, wearing her hidden camera. The prospect of $14,000 is luring this very different kind of predator from his secret lair onto our turf.
Hey, how are you?
Fine,
nice to
thank
see you.
Bazile.
Come on, please, Mr. Bazile.
Thank you very much.
Please have a seat over there. Can I get you water or anything, or
coffee?
Coffee with some. I have coffee coming.
Oh, okay.
Room service is awfully slow here today.
I want Mr. Bazile to be comfortable. The pleasantries continue.
So, how was your day?
Fine.
Good.
A little bit tired. I came in last night and.
Oh, where did you come in from?
To France. France.
Oh, from Paris, or?
From Paris, yeah.
Right.
So,
Mr. Bazile seems charming. He shows me his so-called credentials.
that's my passport.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's my passport. My passport.
He decides it's time to get me on the phone with one of his business associates, maybe because he wants to convince me he's part of something big, something real.
Hello, sir. This is Basil. Please, can I? I'm here with Jimmy DeMoney. Please, can I talk to him, please?
Hello.
This man seems sure he's about to get $14,000 from a sucker, but he wants more. It even suggests gifts for his associates. I offer jewelry and more.
And what about like a gift like champagne, cognac, fine wine?
He has other ideas.
That would be great, but I think all those guys we appreciate cash.
Yeah. Cash is king.
Yes.
Cash is king.
Yeah, they appreciate cash. Yeah.
We're not giving this guy the thousands of dollars he wants, but we are giving him the runaround, some big-time scam baiting, and we want to stall him as long as we can.
It's a little early, but I think we should toast this with just a little sip of champagne. My clock's a little messed up here from all the travel, but always good to have a touch of champagne. So now, do you have kids?
Yes.
Yeah, how old?
The first one is 8. And then the twins.
Twins?
Yes. The second, 16 months.
Wow. That must be a handful.
There's no way to know if those are really pictures of his kids, but the scammers know to use fake pictures of family members to make them appear more trustworthy. Just then, I get a pre-planned phone call from my assistant. I continue to stall him. And remember, what I'm doing here is role-playing. I'm Jimmy DeMoney, American businessman.
Right. Okay, good. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. We're going to have a little champagne toast, and we'll get moving along. Thanks a little bit. Bye now. Well, here we go, Mr. Bazile. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Very good.
I tell him there's going to be a slight delay getting him the money.
I was going to get that $14,000 wired from my bank in New York here. There was a problem at the last minute, and I'm waiting. The banks aren't open yet in New York, and will not open for a couple hours.
Okay.
As a token of goodwill, I give him something.
So basically what I had Lilibet do was to go to the ATM and just wanted to give you some cash right now, just in good faith, and then by the end of the day, in a couple hours, I'll get the rest of it wired. So this is $500, but just take this as a show of faith that I'm not goofing around here. And when the banks open in New York...
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our so-called international banker seems satisfied with a mere $500 cash for what's supposed to be the start of a multi-million-dollar transaction. I play along and act like I'm excited about the millions I'm about to receive. In fact, I want to window shop for all the things I'll soon be able to buy.
We'll finish this champagne and we'll get I got a driver. He'll take us over to the Rolls-Royce dealership and we'll take a look at some cars. As long as you got time. I mean, you might as well hang out. I mean,
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it won't be okay for long, because Mr. Bazile is about to find out who I really am, and he won't be very happy about it. In London, we're the apparent targets of a scam.
Please have a seat.
What the scammer doesn't realize, he's our target.
Cheers.
Our mission, to put a face on an international crime syndicate, do some big-time scam baiting,
Anthony, I'd like to talk to you.
and capture it all on hidden camera. We're supposed to give this man, Mr. Bazile, a $14,000 upfront fee. In return, he says we'll get millions. We're in Berkeley Square, and we convince Mr. Bazile to come window shopping at this Rolls-Royce dealership. I tell him I'm looking for a good way to spend my expected windfall, but Mr. Bazile has no intention of ever turning over any money to me. As far as the cash I'm supposed to give Mr. Bazile, he's never going to see his either. But for now, I tell him it's still delayed, and tell him we'll meet up later.
3:30, we'll meet you in front of the Ritz, and then we'll have it all squared away.
Mr. Bazile shows up right on time, but I don't. We're trying to find out how far we can push these scammers to see if we can learn more about their operation. Later, I call him from my hotel suite.
Why don't we just meet back at the hotel at 5?
I let him know of the change, and he seems more than happy to come by. My assistant, wearing a hidden camera, brings him up on the elevator. He's looking for his cash. I'm supposed to pay him $14,000, and he's supposed to give me $12.8 million. But I'm not the sucker he thinks I am.
I'm concerned that there's no guarantee that at the end of the day you just leave London with this cash and I never see that $12.8 million.
So what kind of guarantee do you want from me?
I haven't even seen a business card from you saying that you're connected with this bank.
Sorry, I didn't bring a business card. I showed you my passport.
But you don't even have a business card from the bank?
I had a business card, but I didn't come with a business. I was in a rush to come, sincerely. Giving you a business, anybody can print a business card. It doesn't change anything.
Right, but I mean, typically people have them.
I tell Mr. Bazile we've been on to him all along.
So here's what I suspect. I suspect, and while you seem like a very nice guy, I suspect that you're part of a scam and that Paul is part of the scam. And I suspect that this is one of those deals where you get some guy to put up $14,000 in the hopes of getting $12.8 million, and then you never see the $14,000.
No, not at all.
Then we confront Mr. Bazile with information we had concerning his accomplice, the one who called himself Paul on the phone. Remember, we learned Paul's phone number was associated with other internet scams.
The same phone number that Paul uses, right, is also being used by a guy named Douglas Como, who's tied to a please help me type scam. It's tied to a Yuma Bayat, who's involved in a lottery scam, and to a Sandy Zuma, who's involved in international transactions.
That's the problem. Lots of people pick up cards and from different people working in the bank, and they use it to defraud people.
Was he claiming he was being defrauded? It was time for Mr. Bazile to find out who I really am.
Well, there's something else I have to tell you.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not Jim Delaney. I'm an investigative journalist from the United States, and we're doing a story on suspected scams, financial scams that come out of Africa. And we suspect that, in fact, this is one of them.
Hello?
So if there's anything else you'd like to tell us, we'd like to hear it. If not, you're free to go at any time. But this is stacking up as one of those scams.
Yes, that's nice. I want to tell you, I can tell you. Where are these guys taking my pictures? Can I see the ID, please?
Well, they're not in a position to have to show you the ID. I'm telling you who they are.
No, but they don't have any right to take pictures of me.
In our room, they do have a right to take the pictures.
Okay.
So if there's anything else you'd like to tell us,
nothing.
Then you're free to leave.
Oh, and one more thing. Remember that money we gave him earlier?
This is $500, but just take this. I must ask you beforehand, though, I'd like to get that $500 back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There he goes. For this man, the scam is over. What did the FBI's John Hambrick think of Mr. Bazile?
This guy is not at the top of his game. This guy's a mule, to a certain extent, a soldier in the game. You can tell he appears to be nervous.
Still, Hambrick says, if I had been a real scam victim, Mr. Bazile would have taken me for everything I had.
They will stay after the victim until the victim is out of money. If we're talking about $60,000 for a guy that's left in his retirement account, they'll take it all.
Remember, we don't have the power to arrest him. And as the FBI's Hambrick told us earlier, with limited resources, there's little time or money to chase these con men down. But investigations like ours might help.
Anthony, I'd like to talk to you.
And we're about to take our hidden camera investigation to the next level. Apparently, these con men don't all talk to each other, and while it's a widespread crime, it may not be that organized.
Give me a sense for how this works behind the scenes. I mean, is this like a corporation?
It's more like organized chaos.
And when we continue our hunt for more of these super scammers, we work it so they can't run, but they will sweat. So far, we've confronted two con men, different types of predators in London.
I'm not Jim Dewey. I'm an investigative journalist from the United States.
After we expose them, they disappear.
Anthony, I'd like to talk to you.
But there are others eager to take our money. Back in New York, I talk on the phone with a man who calls himself B.S. Martins. He tells us about a $20 million hoard of cash hidden away in the nation of Senegal. And if we help transfer it to another country, there will be millions in it for us. But first, we have to go to Amsterdam to meet him. He offers to pick us up when we get into town.
Travel, I'll make a reservation for you in a hotel. From there, I'll pick you up.
They say you can find anything you want in Amsterdam. When we arrive, we're looking for a scammer. We don't want any of BS's people picking us up, though. We are set up in a hotel suite with hidden cameras, just like in London. But here, the scammers are less willing to come by for a visit. Typically, the scammers want control, and Amsterdam was no exception. The FBI's John Hambrick.
They do want to control the situation. This is like a script that they're following. And when you take them out of their element, you're rocking their world.
We want to rock their world, big time. But Amsterdam police say the scammers will insist on having it their way, taking us to a place like this, a building with a legitimate bank on the first floor. And to make it appear they work with the bank, they simply rent offices in the same building. Chief Inspector Rene Vandervoot.
If you get in that building, fresh from the US, just arrived at the airport, and you go to that office building, you think, okay, I'm at the ABN AMRO Bank. But you're not. You're just in an office that has been rented by the hour by the bad guys.
That could be dangerous, so I'm not going to meet at any bank office. As far as we're concerned, that's a deal breaker.
I don't want to get into a car with somebody I've never met before.
And it's really getting to them.
Yeah, they're wearing down. They're getting crazy.
Even though I say I don't want to go with them, they say they'll send a car. Sure enough, our security consultant spots that very car outside the hotel.
Okay, you've got a blue Passat outside with 2 occupants in it.
But the car soon hits the road. Dutch police trace the license plate to a man with a criminal conviction. But after the scammers refuse to come up to our hotel suite, it looks like they're hitting the road as well.
I think it's reasonable to believe that the word got out.
But Amsterdam isn't the end of our story. Another email, another scammer. One of the messages we receive is supposedly from a woman who says her husband had hidden away a fortune.
I am Mrs. Farah Al-Hashimi, the wife of the Iraqi military finance corps chief.
By the way, she's also supposedly dying. And if we assist in finding the hidden fortune, she'll give us a $2 million reward. I'm role-playing again, this time as investor Rich Greenback. The dying woman puts me in touch with still another diplomat, and again, we're told to go to London to meet him. In London, since we know some scammers are onto us, instead of installing hidden cameras in a hotel suite, we hit the theater district, the West End, where we rent a private club. We even pay staff to come in and hire actors to fill the tables. We're supposedly meeting that diplomat, a man named Mr. Amoa. And when I arrive at the meeting place, I give him a call.
There's a lot of mumbo-jumbo about consignment and documents, and he's waiting for a lady, and back and forth and back and forth. So I think he's trying to get his act together.
We just don't know if he'll show. He seems nervous about coming to the club. For some reason, he says he's worried about his safety. But after some long negotiations, he agrees to come to our pub. A Dateline producer, posing as my assistant, wears a hidden camera. Right away, Mr. Amoa is ready for a drink.
Do you want tea or do you want a beer?
Yeah.
A beer?
Small one. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
He goes on to explain it's because he's a diplomat that he can expedite the payment of my reward money.
If you are a diplomat in the section of security companies, you are allowed to move security cargoes to anywhere, but the only thing is that if anything goes wrong, it'll be all over in the television, it'll be all over in the newspapers.
It'll be all over the television?
Yes.
Now, why would it be all over the television?
Yes, because we have to be careful.
Okay. Because we don't want to end up with this all over television.
But as you know, it didn't quite work out that way.
But there's something else you don't know. I am not really Rich Greenback.
In London, in our rented pub equipped with hidden cameras, we're meeting Mr. Amoa, who says he's a diplomat. I'm supposed to give him $12,000, a fee to expedite my receiving $2 million as a reward for helping a poor sick widow. Of course, we know this is all a major league scam, but I want to appear to be a diligent businessman, so I ask for some identification and some proof this is all real.
Right. So the document, your diplomatic documents are actually kept at the airport, so you can't carry them with you.
No, you don't do that.
But what if you get stopped and you have to prove to somebody that you're a diplomat, though?
You go to the airport.
So you just go to the airport?
Straight.
Yeah.
If I was curious what was up with him, he also wanted to know where my $12,000 fee was. Since he's never getting any $12,000, I stall him. I tell him there's a problem with the bank, but we'll meet him later with the cash in Trafalgar Square.
Hello.
Here's the thing. There was another problem at the bank.
Remember, we're getting an inside look at how the scam works, but we're also baiting him on behalf of all those who've been scammed worldwide. So I continue to hold out the promise that he's got a ready and willing sucker at his disposal.
Can you meet me back at the pub in 1 hour?
1 hour time.
1 hour time, and I'll have it all together. I appreciate it, and I apologize for that, but I'm trying to do... those are great-looking shoes, by the way. Where'd you get those? I love those.
The other day, if you had wanted, I would have bring some of it for you.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So in 1 hour, back at the pub, we'll be done.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, my friend. Sorry for the trouble.
No
all
problem.
right. Thanks very much. We'll see you in 1 hour then. All right.
Okay.
All right, good. All right.
Finally, lured by the smell of easy cash, he comes back to the pub right on time.
Want a quick beer?
And now, it's time to tell him I'm not a sucker after all.
Remember how you said you were concerned that something like this could be splashed all over the TV news?
And that is if I don't know.
There's something else you don't know. And that is, I am not really Rich Greenback. My name is Chris Hansen, and I'm a television news reporter in the United States. And we are doing an investigative story on people like yourselves who appear to be trying to steal money from American investors. I work for a show called Dateline NBC. And you've just been caught.
No problem.
What was going to happen with that 8,000 euros? It was going to go in your pocket and you're going to split it with your cohorts, right? There was no consignment. There's no box of money at the airport. How often do you rip people off this way? Tell me.
I've told you so. I don't know. It depends on you.
I think it depends on you. I think you were going to steal 8,000 euros from me today.
Me?
You and the rest of your organization. Do you really expect me to believe that a diplomat has to keep his passport at an airport? I mean, do I look stupid to you?
No.
You know that's not true, right?
Yeah.
You lied to me, right? What do you do?
Get some drink or something.
You want something to drink?
Yeah.
What would you like?
Mr. Amoah clearly isn't ready for this. That's why he continues to sweat profusely.
I'm trying to get answers from you. So tell me how this works. How many people are in your organization? The answer is not at the bottom of that beer glass, by the way. The answer is up here. Tell me what was going to happen with that money had I given it to you and had you walked out that door.
But you called me. I never called you anyway. You called me.
I called you because I was put in contact with you from another man who was trying to rip us off as part of the same scheme.
So what do we do now?
So you tell me. You tell me.
I don't have anything to say again.
You don't have anything to say?
I'll finish discussing with you.
You're finished discussing this with me?
Yes, please.
All right, I have one more question for you. I'd like to get that $200 back I gave you earlier.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
This money give to me.
Well, you're free to leave, by the way.
Mr. Amoah eventually leaves, empty-handed. But we don't. In just a few days, we're able to put a few faces into the rogues gallery of internet conmen. They're players in a sprawling criminal network that continues to steal millions from victims. FBI Special Agent John Hambrick.
It was interesting that your efforts were so productive in terms of getting as far as you did with the face-to-face. That was substantial.
Substantial because, as we learned in our investigation, these scammers are usually phantoms, role players acting their parts behind a string of fake names, internet personas, and email addresses. But even after we caught these characters in the flesh, they were able to disappear into thin air.
From my perception, there is not one man that you take him out and then you're going to take down the network. It is far more diverse than that, and there are several kingpins.
It sounds like that this scam is going to be going on for the foreseeable future.
It does. I have to agree with that. This scam is going to be out there. And the bottom line is, if you want to send your life inheritance off to another country, there's someone there that's willing to receive it.
In our experience, the minute we get off the phone with one of these guys, there's another one waiting in line.
Exactly.
I mean, we could do this all day long.
Exactly.
All year long.
So what's the answer? It's got to be education. I mean, if we can get folks educated on the fact that this is a scam, don't respond to it. But percentage-wise, I believe that the United States is the target audience. We're a rich country, and we're blessed in many ways. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for that quick, easy buck, the opportunity's there for you to lose it all.
And so, some advice for those who receive an enticing email from a stranger in need of help, a friend offering untold riches.
If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Delete the email. If you don't know who sent you that email, delete it.
That's all for now. I'm Ann Curry.
And I'm Stone Phillips. For all of us at NBC News, thanks for watching.